Tory Lanez was stabbed 14 times by another inmate at a California prison. He suffered 2 collapsed lungs, but we are told he is now breathing on his own.
It began as a half-whispered rumor, the kind of late-night Reddit post you scroll past and forget, except this one refused to die.
Peterson never shot anybody, never even touched that gun, never fired the gun.
I'm advocating for Tory Lanez because the evidence shows that he's innocent and he deserves to be pardoned.
Word spread that Tory Lanez, the platinum-selling Toronto artist locked away for allegedly shooting Megan Thee Stallion, might receive a pardon powerful enough to erase his conviction like chalk under rain. A presidential pardon? A gubernatorial pardon? The details shifted day by day, but the message stayed electric. Decision makers in high places were quietly considering whether the courts had gotten everything wrong. Fans perked up. Skeptics scoffed. Journalists dug. The story was no longer a closed case collecting dust. It had sprung back to life, breathing controversy, politics, and pop culture drama in equal measure. Smash that like button if you're the kind of viewer who double checks every headline before you believe it, because the twists you're about to hear will make even seasoned courtroom junkies raise an eyebrow. Stay tuned. You'll want front row seats for the finale. To understand why powerful people are contemplating clemency, you have to rewind to one sweltering July night in 2020. The pandemic still had Los Angeles half locked down, but private gatherings in the hills carried on behind mansion gates. Kylie Jenner's place was buzzing. Tory Lanez, Megan Thee Stallion, Kelsey Harris, and driver Jaquan Smith climbed into a black SUV sometime after midnight. Accounts differ on whether jealousy, alcohol, or a simple misunderstanding sparked the argument, but LAPD received multiple 911 calls reporting gunshots on Nichols Canyon Road. When officers arrived, they found shattered glass, shell casings, and Megan limping, blood trailing across her Achilles area. She told detectives that Tory yelled, "Dance," before squeezing the trigger. Press outlets ran the line in bold red banners. Social media decided the verdict within 24 hours. Tory was guilty. Fast forward to December 2022. Prosecution experts testified that Tory's DNA was inconclusive on the gunslide, but present on the magazine, implying he handled the weapon. Defense experts countered that inconclusive doesn't equal a match, and no fingerprints tied him to the trigger.
You know, he's 100% exonerated from the gun, and for that alone, he should be home with his family.
A neighboring resident swore he saw muzzle flashes near 2 women. Yet, the jury returned 3 guilty counts: assault with a semi-automatic firearm, carrying a loaded firearm in a vehicle, and reckless discharge. In August 2023, Judge David Hereford delivered the hammer: 10 years in state prison. Megan issued a statement thanking supporters for believing women. Tory's father, Sunstar Peterson, erupted outside the courthouse, calling it the biggest miscarriage of justice in 21st century music. Most viewers thought the story ended there. It didn't. While appeal papers inched through the system, an underground current of skepticism surged. Independent vloggers combed ballistic charts. True crime podcasts replayed courtroom audio noting inconsistent eyewitness timelines. Lanez's defense team released a 40-minute phone call recorded from prison in which he insisted, "I'm 100% excluded from the firearm."
I am 100% excluded, not inconclusive like they said when I was in trial. I'm 100% excluded from this gun when it comes to DNA.
So the girl comes out of the rear passenger and she goes to the front passenger?
Yes.
And she opens up the car door?
Yes.
And then what happens?
They start they're screaming and shouting at each other and they start fighting.
The 2 girls?
Yeah, I can see one like feet coming out trying to kick her and the other one's fighting, and then the passenger gets out.
The phrase ricocheted across Twitter, hitting trending status within 3 hours. Ballistics nerds argued over the meaning of excluded, while casual fans simply tweeted #FreeTory by the thousands. Enter Amber Rose, who lit the gasoline with one interview clip. Known for fearless opinions on celebrity legal sagas, she told News Nation that she'd personally spoken with Tory and believed the "sorry" text message, long cited as a quasi-confession, had been misinterpreted. According to Amber, the apology was about infidelity drama, not gunfire. Within the same breath, she urged California Governor Gavin Newsom to grant Tory an immediate pardon, stating, "The evidence shows he's innocent." Screenshots flooded Instagram. Mainstream talk shows invited legal analysts. TMZ churned out 3 articles in 24 hours. Then Drake posted. The notoriously cautious megastar, rarely vocal about active cases, shared a change.org petition labeled "Pardon Tory Lanez" to his 140 million followers with a simple caption, "Come home soon." If Amber's interview was gasoline, this was a meteor strike. The petition leapt from 40,000 signatures to 200,000 overnight, bending servers under the load. Chris Brown threw a "free Tory" across his story feed, adding a receipt showing he'd deposited $5 grand to Lanez's commissary. Kim Kardashian began streaming Tory's mixtape Peterson on her workout playlist. ASAP Rocky kept following Tory but quietly unfollowed Megan. Justin Bieber did the same. In the digital age, a follow button can feel like a courtroom exhibit. Fans mapped every click, convinced each was a silent vote on guilt or innocence. Yet celebrity solidarity was just Act 1. Act 2 crashed in from the unlikeliest corner, Washington, D.C. Florida Representative Anna Paulina Luna, a GOP firebrand known for veterans issues and social media showdowns, sent a blistering open letter to Governor Newsom. She claimed the Lanez case exhibited procedural irregularities, political bias, and forensic inconsistencies that violated due process norms. Luna called for immediate clemency, promising to release fresh documentation within 36 hours. CNN's legal team scrambled. Fox News envisioned culture war gold. Why would a conservative lawmaker champion a Canadian rapper convicted of shooting a black woman? Pundits debated motives ranging from genuine justice reform to clout chasing. Whatever the reason, Luna's involvement catapulted the story from entertainment pages to the national political arena. True to her word, 36 hours later, Lanez's lawyers unsealed a hefty evidence packet at a Unite the People press conference in downtown Los Angeles. Cameras flashed as attorney Walter Roberts revealed a sworn declaration by Bradley James, former bodyguard to Kelsey Harris. In it, James alleged he overheard Harris tearfully admit she fired the gun during a struggle with Megan, while Tory tried to grab her arm to stop the mayhem. The packet included LAPD body cam audio from that night. An independent resident tells officers he saw 2 girls fighting and flashes closer to the female. Journalists rushed to verify chain of custody stamps. Online sleuths paused and zoomed frame by frame. Prosecutors dismissed the affidavit as recycled conspiracy. Megan's attorney, Alex Spiro, slammed it as Hail Mary hearsay. But for the court of public opinion, the seed of doubt sprouted leaves. The stakes escalated when violence erupted behind bars. On May 13, 2025, inmate Santino Casillo attacked Lanez in the yard, stabbing him 14 times with a sharpened toothbrush handle. Initial reports claimed 2 collapsed lungs. Later updates clarified 1 punctured lung, emergency surgery, and a brief stint on a ventilator. Within hours, rumors flooded Reddit that the attack aimed to silence Lanez before evidence could surface. Some threads implied label hit jobs. Others blamed rival music clicks. No proof emerged, but the optics were horrendous. A high-profile inmate nearly dead weeks before a potential evidentiary bombshell. Department of Corrections officials transferred Lanez to a protective housing unit and insisted it was random gang aggression. His lawyers filed a negligence claim, arguing prison intel had warned of threats. Whatever the truth, images of Tory pale and oxygen-tubed revived sympathy across timelines once chilly to his plight. Meanwhile, whispers about Roc Nation's influence hit crescendo. Commentators connected dots, sometimes responsibly, sometimes recklessly, between Megan's management deal and alleged industry pressure. One viral Twitter thread accused Jay-Z of orchestrating a silent blacklist against Lanez across streaming playlists, citing sudden drops in algorithmic placements. Fact checkers noted correlation doesn't equal causation, but the narrative stuck. An indie artist defied a billionaire label boss and paid the price. Jay-Z stayed mum, which only fueled suspicion among those already inclined to distrust powerful gatekeepers. While backstage politics fermented, the online petition surged past 300,000 signatures, a threshold that triggers formal review by California's Clemency Division. Organizers rented digital billboards reading "Newsom, Evidence Matters, Free Tory" along the 110 freeway. They published an open letter listing forensic questions. Why weren't Harris's hands tested for DNA? Why was Lanez's test labeled inconclusive, yet cited as implicating? Why did eyewitnesses describe a woman holding the gun? For For undecided onlookers, the question sounded reasonable. For Megan's supporters, they reeked of misogyny and victim shaming. The comment wars were ferocious, but the numbers spoke. Someone was winning hearts and mouse clicks. What would a gubernatorial pardon accomplish? Legally, it would wipe the conviction, restore Lane's right to vote and possess a firearm in Canada after immigration review, and dismantle any pending deportation orders. Financially, Tory could file civil suits against Los Angeles County, potentially recouping lost touring revenue estimated at $25 million. Culturally, the pardon would brand Megan's courtroom victory as a judicial mistake, not a triumph, raising questions for every brand endorsement she inked, citing survivor advocacy. For Governor Newsom, eyeing national office, the political calculus is treacherous. Support the pardon and face backlash from women's rights coalitions, deny it and look indifferent to due process flaws that galvanize hundreds of thousands of young voters. Could a US president intervene? Technically, yes, under Article 2 powers, though seldom used on state convictions. If Lane's legal team proved a civil rights violation, a federal pardon could nullify immigration consequences. Reporters asked Press Secretary Jen Ely whether the administration would consider it. She dodged. We don't comment on hypothetical clemency petitions. Insiders whispered that campaign strategists were polling Gen Z's sentiment on the saga. Numbers showed skepticism toward institutional trust, a stance for reviewing flawed convictions, polled surprisingly well across demographics. Back in prison, Tory's recovery turned into a Rocky-style montage. Nurses leaked stories of him pacing hallways once his chest tube came out, practicing breathing exercises while muttering lyric ideas. Friends said he penned 30 hooks in 2 weeks using a borrowed pen and scrap paper from the chapel. Rumor has it he recorded voice memos through the phone line, lo-fi but fierce, intending to drop a surprise EP named Vacated the moment he walks. All the while, the evidence tug-of-war raged. Defense blogs published ballistic diagrams arguing the angle of bullet fragments in Megan's feet indicated a low, downward trajectory consistent with a scuffle, not a standing shooter at street level. Prosecutors counter-released glossy infographics showing bullet trajectory as irrelevant given eyewitness testimony. The truth grew murkier, not clearer, but every pixel fed public fascination. August 2025 looms large. That's when Lanez's parole board convenes for the first statutory review. Under normal circumstances, violent felony sentences don't see parole until 85% of time served, but appeals pending could accelerate or decelerate timelines. Simultaneously, Governor Newsom's Clemency Council must file a recommendation or a refusal based on petition merits. Newsom has granted high-profile pardons before, mostly for non-violent drug offenders. This decision, however, intersects guns, celebrity, and gender violence politics, an explosive mix during a presidential primary cycle. The cultural battlefield extends beyond courtrooms. Megan's team scheduled a documentary series titled Survivor's Mick, set to premiere on Hulu this fall, chronicling her healing journey. Lane supporters threatened boycotts unless Hulu aired a disclaimer reflecting newly emerging evidence. Hulu declined. Critics argued that erasing Megan's narrative because of unverified affidavits would re-victimize a woman who risked her career to testify. Supporters retorted that broadcasting one side while gag ordering another wasn't justice but propaganda. When you factor in the stabbing, the bodyguard affidavit, the political letter, and the petition's groundswell, you see why insiders call this clemency push the perfect storm. Every pressure point, legal, moral, social, financial, converges on one man's signature. If Newsom signs, precedent shifts. Defense attorneys nationwide will cite the Lanez pardon in motions to vacate questionable gun convictions. If he declines, civil rights activists will leverage the outcry to fuel criminal justice reform referendums in California's 2026 ballot. Either way, the ripple effect touches far more than 2 artists and 1 2020 shooting. Picture the media frenzy if a pardon drops. Helicopters circling California State Prison, reporters elbowing for the first post-release streaming platforms, bidding for the exclusive tell-all. Record labels would scramble for new contracts. Festival promoters would debate book or blacklist. Megan's documentary would release amid a sea of think pieces titled When the System Gets It Wrong or The Survivor Still Believes. And behind every headline would be millions of fans, each convinced justice either triumphed or died. But we're not there yet. At this very moment, legal clerks sift through discovery binders, forensic auditors analyze gunshot residue spreadsheets, and political consultants draft talking points in case clemency becomes front-page news. Tory practices deep breathing to strengthen wounded lungs. Megan records new verses aimed at haters and doubters. Social media counts down to August like it's the Super Bowl of true crime. So here's the question that keeps everyone hooked. Did ambition, misinterpretation, and label power convict an innocent man? Or is a slick PR PR campaign trying to rewrite a violent wrong? Justice served or star power swayed? Which headline will history bookmark? Drop your take in the comments. Are you convinced of Tory's innocence, steadfast in Megan's account, or stuck somewhere in between? Hit subscribe and ring that notification bell, because what happens over the next 36 hours could rewrite not only hip-hop history, but the very way we measure guilt and innocence in the spotlight age.